lovely to see you, Louise. It's Louise Shepherd from First to Recruit. And we've known each other for quite some time now, but you probably can do a better top line overview of your recruitment journey, because I know that you've been in the industry for quite some time. But if I just hand over to you, and then we will get into a conversation that I am so looking forward to having.
And I ended up in a high street recruitment agency. I just fell into recruitment, like I think most people do. And then in 2007, I thought, you know what, I can do this myself. I guess like everyone who goes on to run their own recruitment company does. I'm making an awful lot of money for other people and not getting paid a lot. So I had a really good opportunity with an ex-manager of mine, or an ex-boss of mine, who was like my business angel, and I started out with. And that was, 2007. So how many years ago is that? That's quite a long time.
17 years.
I bought, is it really? Oh God. I bought my old business partner out a long time ago, and had a team, scaled the business, had a team, and then I just thought, I wasn't enjoying it. It's like, what's the saying? And profit is sanity and turnover is vanity. And I was definitely in that camp. And I was just removed from what I enjoyed doing, which is actually, I really enjoy helping people. I love working with people, you know that. I love helping people find jobs, especially women coming back to work after periods of absence, or, graduates that want to get onto, or just people that just, some people don't know how to do it, do they?
No.
And I realised I'd been removed from the coalface and was working just at a level I didn't enjoy. It's not for me. So I pared everything back, luckily, just before COVID, and went back to working on my own, rehauled the business, which is when I started working with you again on the marketing side. And I've been gradually building it back up, and now have a business that is very mobile, have a team around me again that really work to my terms and help me in the areas that I need the help. I'm now in, I niched more, so I'm now in public practice accountancy and insolvency across the UK, and it's great. I'm enjoying it.
And it's working well. And so it was interesting that in that intro that you talked about, a business that's mobile, which is kind of like a lovely link, really. So thank you for that. Don't know if that was intentional or not, but just thinking about the reason why I thought it'd be great to just invite you onto the podcast is, for those for listeners, Louise has just returned from an amazing month in Spain, doing a walk called the Camino de Santiago. And I know some people will know what that is, and others won't. And I'm going to let you talk about that, Lou. But, while Louise was doing this amazing walk, she was running a business as well. And so, I know that this was a big personal goal for you that you've had for some time. And it's that thing that, work-life balance, people talk an awful lot about that. But it's that realization that you can have big personal goals and you can achieve them while running a business. So I thought that would be a great conversation. So thank you for being willing to share your journey with us. But I guess, where did this idea of walking the Camino come from? And maybe this is a good point to actually share what the Camino de Santiago is for listeners that maybe are not as familiar with it.
Okay, well, I don't really know where the idea came from, and I came from. I know I've had it a long time. It's probably just worth mentioning. I seem to, and I don't plan it this way, but I seem to do big walks whenever I have major crossroads. Whenever I have a major crossroads in my life, like when I moved out of London, it wasn't planned this way, but I ended up going to Base Camp Everest, and that was absolutely at the transition. Although it wasn't planned, it happened, and it was move out of London, do that walk, come back to the West Country and start a new life. And and I was inspired to do that by Bear Grylls before he became famous for all that he does now. But he did a talk at the company I worked for at the time, EMAP, and then you and I have spoken about me doing coaching, where I've said, I really want to do. I get a lot out of these walks, and so so last year I went with a friend of mine to do the very end part of it. So the Camino de Santiago, there are lots of Caminos that come from all over the place. I mean, you can do one from Cambridge to Rome, but the one I did is the most famous. It's called the Way of St. James, which is a very religious, sacred pilgrimage that crosses Spain from St. Jean-Pied-de-Port in France. You cross the Pyrenees, and then you kind of just come up across northern Spain, across all of the regions, through Rioja and all of the other regions, and then you end up in Santiago de Compostela, which is where the remains of St. James, who is one of the 12 apostles, are. Right. So it's a very old pilgrimage. It's over 1,000 years old. A lot of people have done it. Thousands of people do it every year. But there are lots of other ones. So a lot of people do get confused and think, Camino just means way. So, but I went straight into the big one. So last year I went with a friend of mine to do the very end of it, which is Santiago to Muxia or Finisterre, which is the end towards the coast. And I as you know, I was diagnosed with a fatigue illness a couple of years ago, so I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to do it or not. I wasn't sure of my capabilities. But I did it, I managed it, and that's fine. Yeah. And I said to my friend at the time, I'm going to go back next year and I'm going to do the whole thing. And I kind of said it as a bit of bravado, I think, on the high of doing the walk and realising that I could do it. And it's just all kind of morphed from there. But last year was a year of change, so lots of things happened, lots of sad goodbyes, and literally right up until the 2 weeks before I went, where I sadly lost my horse. It was my last sort of link to staying in the UK, and I was just I had no responsibilities left, so I could just go and do it and pick my business up and take it. So
you did.
Sort of digressed a little bit there, but I just did, and I guess I knew from doing it the year before that there's 5G is wonderful in Spain, so I knew I'd be able to get good reception. I knew I could get Wi-Fi at all the albergues that you stay in, so I knew it was possible. Actually, it wasn't so much my business that I was worried about leaving, because I knew I could take that with me. It was more the animals that I look after and my relationship and things like that. But as I said, that all kind of cleared out of the way, and the coast was clear to go do the walk. So I went.
And so you made that decision that you wanted to do the walk and run the business, because you could have taken 2 weeks holiday and run it for 2 weeks, or you could have primed it to have a break and have the team behind the scenes, keeping in touch and stuff. So I guess what made you make that decision that actually, do you know what, I'm going to do both, and I can do both?
I think, and this is a question I was asked on the pilgrimage south, actually, by the pilgrim said to me, how are you compartmentalizing? You're not having the full experience of, because most people who do it are retired or teachers. And I suppose I don't, that isn't how I work my life. It's, it's to walk away from the business for 6 weeks to do it. It's a long time to stop something and then start it again. But also, that's not real life. It isn't, you can't have these. For me, it wouldn't have been an authentic experience. But and I, to be honest, I mean, I was walking in the mornings. It was so hot in Spain. I was walking in the mornings, as you know, as one of my support groups, and I would get to where I was going to by 2-3 o'clock, and then what do I do?
Yeah,
I'd work, because that was I had the time to do it. So I did it because I could. I did it because I didn't want to not do it, and I don't really believe that to have done it anyway would have been authentic or would have sat well with me.
With you.
What I wanted to do on the walk.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, and how did you find it? I mean, obviously you said, 5G was great. So, getting a good internet connection for Zoom calls and interviews wasn't obviously an issue, but
No,
you know, you set out to do it that way because that felt authentic for you. But practically, I mean, how did it work?
it worked very well. I mean, they're an hour ahead. So,
Right. Yes.
and I was getting, I was lucky. I was getting up early to beat the heat anyway. So by
Mm.
lunchtime, I would normally be at my destination, and
Hmm.
I would have some lunch, have a small nap, and then I had the afternoon. So instead, if I was getting to somewhere by, let's say, 2 o'clock, it was only
Mm.
really 1 o'clock in the UK. So
Of course. Yeah.
I still had an afternoon of work to do. So
Yeah.
it's almost like I just went down to part-time hours, and I'd
Right.
notified all my clients that I was going to be away, or anything I was
Mm.
working on, I knew I'd be working
Yeah.
on. And I could take a call when I was walking and I was checking my emails. So to me, my business is a lifestyle business now. So
Mm.
it's not it has to fit around my life.
Mm.
So if I'm out at any time of the day, weekend, I know it's not healthy. A lot of people say not to do it, but I will look at my phone. I will check my emails. I'll choose whether to reply or not, but I will look. So for
Mm.
me, walking across, you know, 17, 20 kilometers, there's only so many ebooks, audible books, and, so many podcasts and things that I want to listen to. So actually it was quite good to do a bit of work. And to be
Yeah.
honest, my clients were more interested in what was going on, what I was seeing, what I was doing than actually working. So it was good. It worked.
It worked. Well, I mean, that is great. Um, Thinking about, I suppose you talked about you'd prepped it in terms of you told clients what to expect. So that was all organised beforehand. How else did you perhaps have to organise things, or what did you have to do differently to prepare yourself? With the team and how that worked, because again you were working part-time, you weren't there full-time, and I know it's like a virtual model that you have, but still you're not as accessible, let's say.
Absolutely. Um, yeah, I mean, I guess first of all, the person says I'm completely cloud-based now, so I
Mm.
don't use paper at all. I mean, all my note taking is done digitally, so
Right.
um, that kind of streamlined things and made things easy. And I sync across all devices. Um,
Right.
so my VA is in South Africa, and he was in the same time zone as me, so that was easy.
Right.
And I'd also lined up all of my marketing for the time I was away. So that was all kind of planned and stacked and in place. And a lot of the
Mhm.
processes I've got in place now, like Dripify and the automated messaging, that all happens anyway. So really, all that had to be done on a daily basis was the reactionary look at emails,
Mm.
look at and check LinkedIn, just answer messages.
Yeah.
And then if anything needed any more, like a call or a video, or that would happen when I got to where I was going to. So um, how I have the business already set up and how I work it anyway is very much aligned, paired me, kind of smoothed the way
To
to
do it.
being mobile.
Yeah. And I guess what I'm hearing you say there is that, and you over the years, certainly that we've kind of like been working together, you've always had those recruiting systems and processes there, but then you were able to introduce and build those marketing processes and the BD side of it, so that it's lovely actually to listen to you describe that, actually having put those systems in place alongside your recruiting processes, that your business was running like that. So in a way, your business was able to just continue running like that. You
Yeah.
just did the reactionary stuff slightly differently, probably at a different time of day, but it was more a condensed period of time in the afternoons, rather than probably spreading it out across more hours that
Yeah,
maybe you might.
absolutely. And if you think about it anyway, certainly as you're looking at managers and above, they can't really talk in the day anyway. So a lot of people want you to contact them in the evenings. So
Yeah.
really, um, yeah, I mean, the systems that are in place are all very much looking after themselves. There was one day, on one of my hardest days actually, where my VA, Logan, messaged me and said, our salary survey's gone down. And I was like, okay, right. So, and then I contacted the marketing person I work with, Chris, and to get together, we were able to figure out that they had a day of maintenance. So, we knew what was happening, and we could go back in
Okay.
and communicate that to people that were trying to fill out the survey. But I mean, that was probably the most difficult. I said people thought it was, if I phoned somebody to say, can we do an interview, you've applied for this job, it was such a great icebreaker to say, well, actually, at the moment, I'm walking nearly 800 kilometres across Spain. So I'm really sorry if you hear something in the background, that, I'm in an albergue and shared environment. It was lovely. Everyone was really great.
Yeah. Well, that's great, because I mean, I was going to say to you, were there any sort of challenges, along the way? But it sounds like you just had one little technical challenge, and I guess I can see why people would be quite interested in your experience and what you were doing, while they were potentially being interviewed, or you were taking a job brief or something, which is great actually, because I don't know, it'd be interesting what your thoughts were, because obviously I would say post-COVID, COVID, everybody going through that experience had quite profound impacts on people and what they see as important and how they want to spend their time and what they do, and that work-life balance. And so I just wonder if, the kind of response that you got from clients and from candidates and flexibility, if actually that was a reflection of the changes as a society that maybe we've had. Because if you'd done this maybe, when we very first met, back in sort of 2017, 2018, maybe even before then, I think we first met, actually.
Yeah, I think
it is before that, isn't it? God, yeah.
I don't mean unfortunately we've known each other longer. I mean, unfortunately, we've known each other for a long time.
We have actually. I wonder if things would have been. I wonder if you'd have had the same experience with clients and candidates then. No,
I agree with you. I do agree with you, and I think the positives out of COVID obviously is the fact that now videoing from any environment is really common. So I will very often have meetings with very senior people, and they're doing it from their bedroom or from their dining room or something, because they're working from home that day. They haven't got. I know a lot of my friends, or my girlfriends, who were working from home pre-COVID. When COVID hit and their husbands came back, their husbands took over their office, and they were relegated to the dining room table. So yeah, I think pre-COVID, no. But I still think I could have done it, in all honesty, if I'd had the processes I've got in place now. I think it's so much more accepted to do a video from anywhere.
Yes.
People are so much more flexible.
Yeah. And it's interesting, isn't it, that you saying, well, you could have done it if you'd had the systems and processes, and you had some, but not the complete version of what you've now got. So I think that's a real, I suppose, insight in terms of the value of really having systems and processes that mean that things are happening consistently.
Absolutely. And I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't seen it myself.
I
think because we knew each other a long time ago, didn't we? And then
we did.
And then I joined your marketing circle in 2017, probably about that time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And you don't know the missing link until you realise it was a missing link, which is the benefit of hindsight. But some of the processes in place now are so automated that they just go on, and you can, sometimes I have to turn them off. They are too much. You can't keep up with the inquiries coming through. And because I'm more NPC.
What a lovely problem to have, Lou. What a lovely problem to have. I can think of people who would love that problem.
I mean, I'm NPC led rather than job led now, whereas before I was
Yes.
very much job led and running that rat run, that horse race. But I'm NPC led now, so all of the marketing and the systems I've got in place very much go out to those people.
Yes.
And what goes out to my clients is more just, information, evergreen
That
recruitment stuff,
value
or just
adds that piece. Yeah.
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 Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's been a big game changer actually for me
Yeah.
in terms of the work-life balance. Because before I started putting the processes in place, there are so many things that I want to do. I mean, you and I've always talked about it, but I want to go out and ride my horse. I want to be able to go visit my friends. I want to be able to look after my mum, and visit my family and just travel. And the position I was in when I was growing the team and very much chained to my business, chained to it, and constantly firefighting and answering questions and trying to find solutions to something that was fundamentally broken and not working, and putting sticky plasters on it. So to pare everything back to very basic and rebuild it again with much using technology, having the right marketing in place, and having the right systems and automations in place, that's been great. It's just that
Yeah.
is my big headache,
Yeah.
how to market the business and how
Yeah.
to keep in touch with people. And then I'd freak out because I think I'm doing it manually and I don't want to message someone twice, and I don't want to, because I want that integrity, and it's important. I'm not a rule breaker. I like to do things properly. So I wanted to be sure I had a system that was going to not get me into trouble and not duplicate things. And it all works brilliantly. It's great.
And so if we can like just maybe dip into the walk, excuse me, the walk side, because it was a lot of kilometers. I mean, there were some days I know, we had this support group that Louise would post into every day what her plan or route was for that day, and she'd keep posting so that we knew that she was safe because you were doing it on your own. Just when you think about that whole journey, the physical demands and everything, the heat at that time of year that you were doing it, I mean, what were some of the more personal sort of sides of that challenge that maybe you experienced, if any?
I mean, yes, there are. But I think, I only came back 2 weeks ago, so 2 weeks ago. So it's
2 weeks,
very,
yeah.
yeah. I'm kind of still absorbing it all and coming to understand actually what it did for me. But one of my biggest takeaways, take the walk to one side for a second, but one of my biggest takeaways is I'm fiercely independent, and I've always really been very independent. And I find it hard to put my trust into people. So for me to set up a group, and I actually did, the group was amazing. The WhatsApp group, I set it up with mainly people who I thought A, would be interested, B, some were retired and some were in other countries, so I knew I'd have eyes on me all the time. But I really only ever did it just as a safety thing. And I had another one running for my family as well. So I had two groups I posted exactly the same thing into. And I shared my location with you, didn't I? But what I learned from it is that I got all this support that I didn't even realise I had. And although I was walking it alone, I wasn't alone. I had all you guys. I don't know how many pairs of eyes, and you were all, there was one day in particular, wasn't it, when I'd done 21 kilometres along the side of a road in 38-degree heat. And then I had to do a 600-metre straight up, which is, Snowdon's 1,085, I think, something like that. So it's half of Snowdon in the last 10 kilometres, I think. 11 kilometres. And it nearly broke me. I was, the group saved really smart. Come on, you can do this. You can do it. Come on. Yeah. And I'd also shared my with a couple of people who I knew, like my dad, who's semi-retired, my friend Katie, who came out and started it with me, I'd shared my AirPod. So she was messaging me and saying, I can see where your backpack is. It's you're not far away from where you're going, like it's just around the corner. So I think that's one of my biggest takeaways, apart from the physical and the mental, is knowing I'm not on my own. And I know that sounds really daft because I know I'm not on my own, but I'm so used to doing things by myself and not asking for help, that to have a group around me of people who were interested in what I was doing and cared about what I was doing it was really touching, really, really touching. Probably the biggest takeaway from the walk.
Yeah. And so, I mean, because it's kind of like, you say, well, I know people care. It's like that. It's almost like an intellectual thing, isn't it? But actually knowing it inside that actually people really do care. And I have got this support network here. And I just kind of like wonder in a way, when you think about, I suppose, that realization that, what does that mean perhaps in terms of the business and how you evolved the business from where you are now moving forwards?
Yeah, I think a massive takeaway from that is that, we all need to share. And I work best when I've got a group of people around me. I know that. Although I like to think I'm independent, I know I need that support system. So I think trusting, sharing, being vulnerable, and putting yourself out there. I mean, I think that's probably really valuable in business anyway, isn't it? Because I don't know about, I know that a lot of people who start, certainly who I've met who have started recruitment businesses, feel very lonely. And at some point you do hit a hurdle very early on, usually. And what I'd say to anyone who's at that point now is that we're all taught as recruiters to not trust other recruiters because we're the enemy, we're all your competition.
Yeah.
And yet actually I think collectively I've learned so many things from other recruitment owners, other recruiters who share. And so being part of a network, as I was on my Camino, as I am in the Superfast group, and in other groups as well. I've got mastermind groups, quite a lot of mastermind groups that I'm in. I think I'm just going to kind of just be more, just let the hard veneer slip and be a little bit more vulnerable.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting, is that so sometimes I think there can be that thing that, well, if I admit something, and I can't succeed on my own, then, what does that say about me and who I am? Whereas actually I can think the opposite, that, it says a lot of who somebody is. If they say, look, this is something that I'm struggling with, and actually I'm open to help. And the value of community. I think community, we're probably going to see, I suspect, communities in all different parts, in business, in recruitment even, talking about candidate communities and things that can make sourcing easier. So I think community is, I know you've used that word network, and that's what I mean by community, is a network of people, of like-minded people, similar interests, that can collaborate and support, because there's more power in that than being alone. I guess in many ways that's what it made me think about as you were chatting about that then. I mean, in terms of, let's say, that sense of achievement of, I mean, how many kilometers was it again? Remind me. 700 and...
There's a lot of different information. So when you're in Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, there's a sign that says 790 kilometres to Santiago. That's by road.
Right.
Then when I got to Compostela or Santiago de Compostela, when I went to go and get my certificate, the certificate says 779. My Apple Watch says I've done well over 1,000 kilometres. So in 33 days, I did it well over 1,000 kilometres. That seems bonkers to me. Because when you're doing it, when I was doing it, I think you guys all watching me felt it was harder than me doing it, because I literally had one job to do that day, or until, this is my compartmentalising.
This
now.
is my goal today.
Yeah. My job is literally, where am I staying and can I get to there? Is my bag going to be there when I get there? Because I did use a porter system just because of the amount of stuff I want to take just to go.
Yeah.
Where are my wee stops going to be? Because I don't want to do any wild weeing. That's not me. Where am I going to get refreshments from, food from? And what are the challenges of the day going to be? So that's all pretty basic stuff. That's shelter, food, water, and rest.
Isn't it? Yeah, good old Maslow hierarchy of need. Yeah.
Back. And then once I got to my place safely, I was like, okay, now I can worry about the other things or do the other things I need to do. But actually, I didn't. By that point, I was the mental stuff wasn't as bad because the body was exhausted. My body was exhausted. But they say on the Camino you go through 3 different phases. So you go through the physical, which is first, obviously the body physical side. Then you go through the mental, and a lot of people have an angry phase then when they go through that. And then you go through the serenity, where you kind of, you're resigned to it, or you're at peace with it. I can't really say that happened to me. Although it was a roller coaster of emotions. I did go through quite a lot of stages, but I met some amazing people, really, really wonderful people all over the world who, we were getting up close and personal. I didn't stay in. I tried to avoid the hostels that everyone thinks about in terms of, bunk beds in massive rooms. Sometimes I had no choice, and there were shared bathrooms with no locks on them. If you opened your eyes in a mixed room of, people from all over the world, when I started hearing people move around in the morning, I didn't want to open my eyes because I didn't know what I was going to see. I just waited until it was quiet. And I was like, right, I can make a dash for it. Or I'd sleep in my clothes and knew I was going to wear the next day, so that I,
Right.
But it was definitely an experience.
Just thinking about that then. So I'm guessing there are times when you're probably a little bit outside your comfort zone personally.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, what I guess I suppose I'm interested in, and you may not have even considered it yet, and that's absolutely fine. But when you think about, because our industry is changing, and technology is evolving so much, and I think a lot of owners, a lot of recruitment consultants, can be quite outside their comfort zone with changing the way that they're working and everything. So I suppose I'm just curious, really, in terms of, look, personally, that was a really outside your comfort zone experience, but having got through it and just dealt with it, I mean, what does it mean in terms of maybe how you might handle being outside your comfort zone in other parts of life and business, in terms of how you might handle it now compared to before?
Yeah, well, I mean, the first is you would never have caught me on camera doing this before, right? That's like...
I know. Listeners, this is a first. We've got Louise Shepherd on camera.
I think you especially in today's, like you said, there's always a newer, whizzier version of something coming along, and so and that's where I think the community comes in, because if you're an island on your own, you're always going to do things where you've always done it, and that's pretty fatal, isn't it, in any business really? Because you're going to become quickly obsolete.
Yeah.
I think if I'm able to come out of my comfort zone personally, which I have, and it's kind of what stripped me of dignity. That's not the right word. Definitely not the right word. There were sometimes when I did feel I was stripped of my dignity, but I think just being willing to try something new, or just going, do you know what, I'm going to go through this. Like, there were times when I'd get to where I was going to, and I'd take one look at my bunk bed, and I knew there were bed bugs in it. I knew it. You could tell by looking at it. I mean, €10 for a bunk for the night. You know it. And there are creepy crawlies, and there's someone that snores, and there's someone it's just all this kind of stuff. It's going to happen, but I knew that it was just one night, and I knew I could get through it. And I guess that's a bit. If I bring that back into my business, and I'm having a bad day, I know that it's just one day, and I know that I can make tomorrow better, or tomorrow might be better. And there is everything you need there is everything you need out there to do it. You've just got to be brave enough to give it a go. And go through the pain of it, because the whole 1,000 kilometers, officially 779, but I know it was over 1,000. If I'd thought hard about what I was going to do before I did it, I wouldn't have done it. I really wouldn't, because that pain. And I've got this wrist band that I got, and it says the journey is the reward.
Right.
And I think so often we're so keen to get to, like, let's say,
destination.
We're so keen to get to the destination, which is placement money in the bank. That's where the comfort is. But actually, the reward is setting up those systems and procedures that do take a bit of time, and they are a bit of a pain in the neck, and they are hard to get your head around and to understand. I mean, I had to learn how to make sure that my backpack went from albergue to albergue to albergue. I had to learn basic Spanish to get me through over there. I had to learn to be able to ring and talk to people who spoke no English, and learn how to get a room for the night, and then be confident that room was going to have my name on it when I got there, or that bed would have my name on it when I got there. So there was an awful lot of trusting the process, and trusting what was going to happen. And I think I was thinking when I was out there, how will I bring this back into business? And I think for me, it has been overwhelming since I've got back, for lots of different reasons. Business-wise, it's been a bit overwhelming, because it's, that we're doing salary survey and getting that through. And I just know that if I follow the markers, follow the arrows, it's a bit corny now, but follow the arrows, follow the markers, follow the map, it will get there. It's a bit like plugging your postcode into a sat nav, isn't it? You'll get there. But if you don't program it properly, you're going to end up somewhere else, somewhere you don't want to be.
Like it. Okay. So I mean, what would you say to somebody who, I mean, it might not necessarily be obviously walking a Camino or anything, but if somebody has, a big personal goal, it doesn't necessarily have to be someone who is an independent person like yourself as a recruiter with a virtual team. It could be somebody in a slightly bigger business. But if they were considering doing a personal challenge that was quite demanding, but trying to mirror in and build in some work, I mean, and they were talking themselves out of it, what would you say to somebody like that?
I'm just thinking about one of my mentors now, what she would have said, but I can't say it on here. I would say just go for it. I mean, the planning preparation is obviously crucial, but life is just too short. We don't, none of us know what's around the corner, and I could have kept putting this off and putting it off and putting it off and putting it off, and it would never have happened. I was talking to a friend of mine who also runs a recruitment agency. I've known from years ago, and one of the things that we want to do together is to go and work for maybe a month or 2 months in different parts of the world in coming years. And that's completely doable. I think you just got to be able to have that vision and set it up and know it's possible, because it is possible. it depends what your challenge is, but for me, it's getting NPCs coming through. So as long as my automated system is producing NPCs, everything else falls into place.
Yes.
But I think you just got to do it. Just do it.
I guess it's kind of like
find who you need, find the information you need, and then do it.
Yeah. And it's kind of, so it's like having that vision, isn't it? Of this is what I want. This is kind of like my goal. And then in the planning, it's like, okay, what do I need to put in place? And it's interesting because you keep using those words, systems, having the right systems. And once you've got the right systems, then it's, well, you work those systems, and you can work those systems today with, technology and the internet. You can work those systems from anywhere in the world.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people think, and I know I did when I first started implementing these systems, my database was a bit messy, and I was worried about the data going in, I needed to cleanse it. And if you think about all of that, you'll never start it. You'll never start it.
Yes.
If I thought about everything I was going to have to experience, I've spoken to my stepmom, for instance, and other people, and they said I wouldn't be able to do the Camino because I wouldn't want to share a room with anyone else. I especially wouldn't want to share a room with up to, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 other people. It just wouldn't happen. Or share a bathroom. And I'm like, but you can go and pay a little bit more and have a room of your own, really, if you want to. But I think if you think too hard about it, you would stop yourself from doing it. So and I just know that once you start doing it, the solutions come. It all starts to roll, and it gets overwhelming. And I guess I could use the analogy of the walk. It did get overwhelming at times, and there were times when I was, I got to one place and my bag wasn't there, and I knew it was in the building because my AirPod said it was in the building. Right. And the lady didn't speak any English, and I was trying to explain to her that I knew my bag was there somewhere. But you just figure it out, don't you? If you don't start it, you never know.
No, and I always remember somebody saying to me that we're always looking for certainty, about making a decision about how something's going to work out, and that is quite a human thing to look for certainty, because generally most people have quite a lot of fear going on for them, and yet the only way we get certainty is when we move into action and we start doing things and we work it out. And as you say, you worked out what you needed to say on the phone to book the next door beige, making sure that your luggage got from one place to the next, that you had to learn that. And it's very easy to let that habit part of our brain that loves to keep us in that cozy, warm comfort zone. It's very easy to listen to that part of the brain, isn't it? Rather than kind of like thinking, right, let's just, I'm gonna switch that voice off inside my head, and I'm going for it.
I think absolutely you're right, and I think my father said something to me a couple of years ago, which, as we were talking about before, it sort of resonates later down the line, not necessarily at the time. But he'd said to me, he's got an army background, and he was always taught to make a decision. Not making a decision is really bad. That's in some situations can be fatal. So make a decision and then course correct.
Yes, and absolutely.
I think people think sometimes, and I know I have because I was there. I've definitely been there on many occasions in the 17 years of my company. But if you think, okay, I've got to do that, and I want to get to that point, and that seems like a massive journey, but it's not. You've always got to go, okay, I'm going to trust that that's going to come. I just follow the steps, and those steps are little steps, and that's what I had to do every day. I was walking on my own for hours. I wouldn't see a soul, nobody, in high heat, really hot heats, and hot heats. That's not English. In extreme heat,
intense heat,
intense heat, and I'd have to make sure I had enough water. it was just sometimes I thought, what the hell have I done? But I think that's putting your trust in the process.
Yeah, and yourself. Then yourself,
Yeah,
trusting yourself.
definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah. And the people around you, the support you've got.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like an amazing experience. I'm looking forward to hearing more about it over a glass of wine virtually sometime as well. Because I'm sure there's lots more stories that you can share. But listen, thank you for just taking some time to, share your journey, your experience, and I guess some insights into what that means for you taking your business forward. And also that I think something I've taken away from it as well, and I'm sure other people have listening, is the planning. Just make that decision, as you say, plan, have the right systems and processes in place, both for the business and personally for that journey, and go and do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one foot in front of the other. That's all it is. It really is.
So, huge congratulations on an amazing achievement. And I look forward to catching up and hear more stories pretty soon.
Thanks, Sharon.
You're very welcome.